go ahead and get it going. I'll go ahead and take it today. So, welcome to another episode of the Indy Investor Speakeasy here at the Water Bowl in Carmel, Indiana. So, got a big crowd today. So the setup for this podcast was a heck of a challenge, but we got through it.
We need more chairs.
We need a couple more chairs, I think.
Yeah.
But today we got Dave Short, Steve Lehman. Steve's been on our show a couple times, I think, so far. Maybe one of those episodes aired. One didn't.
Yeah. The recording worked at least once.
Yeah. And then Dave Short, if no one knows him, then you don't know Indianapolis real estate investing. But he's been an OG flipper in the area for years, and he's had some neighborhood shows on the Indy Investor Pod with Brett Snodgrass. So happy to have him on today. And yeah, fellas, that's what we're talking about today. The topic's going to be neighborhoods around Indianapolis. I feel like every time we have an episode like this, it provides a lot of value for anyone listening or anyone looking to, start their investing journey in Indianapolis. So, Steve, we can kind of start with you real quick. Why don't we let's begin with kind of your favorite areas, starting from the Northwest, kind of split this up in quadrants. Here we'll go Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, Southwest. So,
So if you're looking we'll start at the Northeast. You're looking pretty much any area up there is relatively okay if you can, except for Post and 42nd. I mean, that's pretty much your gambit area right there that you want to stay away from. There's a couple little pockets in there that are really nice, but for the most part, you just don't want to go anywhere near the apartment complexes that are over there. It's not so much the single family homes that are the issues, it's the apartment complex.
Yeah.
A lot of issues over in those sections over there. So otherwise, that area is pretty solid. It can be good for flips. It can be good for rentals. It's got a good mix of everything in it. As you move yourself down a little further south towards like Washington and that area over there, it's once again, it's a lot of blue collar type areas. Same as kind of the north up there. You can get out to Cumberland. Cumberland's another nice area that I was just speaking about before we started going. And a lot of people are going out to that direction. And you got a lot of ranch homes that are built out there in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. They're very easy to fix up, turn them into rentals, try to flip them, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, you move yourself down south towards the Fountain Square area, Bates Hendricks and Christian Park, the new jail that was built, courthouse and everything that was built down there, which has turned out to be not bad, but it didn't, people didn't jump on it as quickly as I thought they would.
yeah.
So I was talking to some bail bonds people and they're not leaving downtown. They're staying right where they're at. So they said they're actually scared to go in that area. I go, well, that's odd because don't you people deal with kind of
That's kind of like your thing.
rougher people?
Yeah.
I mean, and you're scared to go down there. And that's what they said. I don't think it's scary. It's not scary. I don't know why he said that, but he did. And, but they're not going down there, and neither are the lawyers at the moment. That doesn't mean it won't happen in the future, but for now, it's not. So would that be a good area to buy and hold? I'd do it. That's where I would put myself on that end. So,
Well, that tends to be kind of what you focus on there is the buy and hold stuff primarily, right?
buy and hold. Flipping wise, there's always flips everywhere. You can flip a property anywhere as long as you get it the right price.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about, like you mentioned 42nd and Post. I know it's always been known as kind of a stay out of your zone. But from the outside, someone from out of state looking in the area, like if you just look at the houses, they look like picture perfect flip opportunities because they're, like you said, ranch homes, a lot of brick built homes, easy rehabs, right? But then if you're driving around, like I was just down there the other day, I think I was going down Post, and just right around the corner, we sold a property, and I was like, man, it's a little rough.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been like that forever. So I think it's one of those areas where you just got to really do your research there, because on paper it looks like a great opportunity in a decent neighborhood, but it could be hit or miss depending on what block you're on.
Yeah, mid-offer German church out that way. It gets
Yeah.
a little bit easier, a little bit better.
Yeah.
For that kind of stuff. Get closer to the Post and 42nd area, it gets a little bit more sketchier.
Mhm.
So
How about you, Dave? I know we just kind of covered the east side a little bit. And we kind of got the buy and hold perspective. What's your take there from a flipping side of things that you're
Well,
seeing?
my model is flipping. We flip 20 to 25 houses a year, and we've probably done 450 houses in Indianapolis in the last few years. So we're pretty active, and we kind of look at our model and change it almost every year. My model is like the areas Steve's talking about and Randy's talking about, where it's hit and miss on the streets. I really don't want to flip in neighborhoods that it's hit and miss. And I also tend to stay away from neighborhoods that there's a presence of buy and hold. So I'm looking for something that's going to be owner occupant, that I comfortably can go and I know I can sell that house with owner occupant, and a buy and hold guy would probably never look at it, only because it's a situation that the numbers don't work on whatever their models are in today's world.
Yeah.
So we tend to look at areas we concentrate on the Lawrence area. We like, everybody loves Meridian Kessler if you're flipping. Everybody loves the Geist neighborhoods. But those are a little bit harder. And the perception is there's a lot more risk flipping a $700,000 house than there is a $150,000 to $200,000 house. Well, I found out that there's probably less risk doing that house. It gets a little more complicated doing a bigger house like that, but the risk, I think, is a lot less. We have really good crews, so, we really struggle doing a $150,000 flip.
So do I.
To get the numbers that we want and get it finished and make a profit.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that we look at, if we can't create a margin very comfortably going in that, we'll tend to pass. Everybody is, we're looking at quite a few things in Bates, Hendricks, and Fountain Square.
Yeah.
Which kind of nobody is anymore. But we're looking at stuff, and we're actually finding quite a few, at least looks and opportunities, where somebody else has started the process. And now we can step in and finish it because they've done the drywall, they've done the demo, they've done the electrical, they've done the plumbing, so we can come in and actually finish the house where the people have run out of money, or didn't have the skill set to complete.
Or had a contractor run out on them or whatever.
They had some steam but ran out of gas on the way. I like what you were saying. There are going to be the majority of viewers to this podcast are out of state. They're looking at Indy. They're looking for more information. You are going to be the first stop and the first source that has said, don't buy a $150,000 flip. Go to the bigger neighborhoods on the higher end scale. They've never heard that before. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's doing that. And I had an eye-opening moment at the beginning of this year because I'm looking and I'm like, who's the end user to these flips? Who's buying all of these flips? All the small, buy them for 75, put 50 into them, sell them for 175. Who's buying them? Another person from out of state. Why does it make sense to be a flip then and not a value add play to burr out of it? What you were talking about is true going in and doing design and being a construction company that's rehabilitating neighborhoods that are just outdated at the end of the day.
Well, one of the big factors when you're successful at doing bigger flips is that I've always said that if money's the play, it's a really hard flip for me to do. If it's convenience that they're looking for and to solve a problem, then now the flips become really good opportunities for somebody because they want to solve their problem and move on. And the last 3 big flips that we did, it was like, I'm going back to Denver. I don't want to come back. I said, we can solve that problem. And so it was the convenience that we were looking for. When I sat face to face with a seller and they're not worrying about every dollar that comes out, I can probably do a deal there. I can probably do a transaction. And so they're in better neighborhoods. So I think the model is that kind of stuff, and the good flips in the 100, 150 range, they're there. But again, it's not about the capital that does it. That's why I would love to buy from wholesalers, but they're pricing at it's somewhere I can't make any money. But I also know that if I got to that seller first, there's a transaction there. But I respect what the wholesalers do because they spend a lot of money getting their leads and they deserve to be rewarded for that.
When they create liquidity in the market for people who don't know Dave Short.
Yeah.
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 No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And I wholeheartedly agree with your assessment. Doing the bottom end flips, one, it's, who's the end buyer? I think that's a really good point. Number two, when something goes wrong during that construction, because something is always going to go wrong during every project. There's no margin there to do the right thing with those projects.
I would say two of the last 5 flips that I've done under 200, I've wrote a check.
Yep.
And I'm pretty good at what I do sometimes, but sometimes I'm not.
Yeah, I've been a part of 21-ish this year, and I would say 6 times.
Under 200?
The seller has wrote a check.
Yeah. So it definitely happens. So with that in mind, let's kind of circle it back to then that east side. What neighborhoods in particular are you focusing on that you think kind of make the most sense for flippers that are looking for the north of $200,000 properties?
Well, some of the better flips, it's maybe around 200 or 2 to 250 is something that is a play around community hospital.
Okay.
Those are always good. Irvington, we do stuff there, but
it's hard to get a deal.
Yeah, it's hard to get a deal, and you have to be able to work with the historical society. Sometimes I call it the hysterical society.
It could be tough.
It's fair.
So it can be really, really tough. And so we've kind of figured out the models and how to work with them, and and we seem to get through it, but it's pretty, it's a struggle. The Warren, the Emerson Heights again is a good entry level. Unlike Steve. I wouldn't drive over by the Justice Center to hold, to buy, to go in a bathroom. There's no way I'm going over. I mean, that's
hey, the McDonald's.
And you know what? The reason
McDonald's over there is just fine.
well, but I'm telling you what, the reason that area hasn't taken off, the houses aren't good houses.
Yeah,
they're shanties.
Fair.
Yep, that's fair.
They are not good houses.
That's why they're good buy homes.
Well, and you go on the flip side of that, you go north of 16th Street, south of 20 by Community Hospital. Those are nice houses. I mean, they're 700 square feet. They're well built and they're manageable in a rehab situation. And so that's why some of those neighborhoods can work on both sides of it.
Really?
I think on the flip side, you hit the nail on the head for at least 2024, presumably 2025. As I'm going through property addresses in my head, there's only one that's been on the east side that any of my clients have attempted this year. I don't think I've ever put that correlation together. They're all on the near north, Bates, some right in the heart within 5 minutes of Mile Square, I think is a good play. And to your credit, buy and hold wise, it's all where clients have bought. Christian Park's a huge one.
Yeah.
I own in Christian Park, Little Flower. I love those areas.
Yeah, but you also got a pocket of rural intent, and rural intent area, Windsor Park, Springdale,
I also own
St.
on
Clair
rural
Place. Those places are also, due to the custom home builders that came in there and started building up to boost that area, Brookside, really Rovoli Park, Ravioli Park is usually what I spell it as, is usually, those areas, you can still get a decent house, just like the Emerson Heights. You can get a house, you can rehab it, and you can kick it out the door. If you're going to flip between the 150 to 200, you were asking who are your buyers. It is usually the buyers who can't rent anymore because their mortgage or rents are too high. So they're trying to get into that where the mortgages are a little bit easier to deal with.
That's going to be Q1
And
2025.
And that's going to
all
be a
Q1.
lot of new home buyers to maybe somebody who did own a house and lost it for some reason, and then they're trying to get back in. That's the type of people who are buying those houses. And
about
I do agree with you on the I do agree with you on the standpoint that you have out-of-state people who are buying those houses trying to burr them out. Burr strategy, just put that aside, is just history. The numbers can't work. They just don't work right now. It's just not there.
Well, one of the things that we've struggled and why we don't go over there very much, and that Windsor Park and over there 10th and Rural, is that, you know, if you get around 300, for the most part, you have what I consider a false comp. Is like Renew Indy builds a $300,000 house and sells it for 180.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, that guy goes in and says, oh yeah, this house sold for 300 that renewed, but they give the guy $60,000 or $70,000 as a grant to go in. So they really sold the 300 house for 230. So the guy that comes in and does a flip looking for an owner occupant buyer that doesn't have the grant money, it's a false comp.
Well, let's also make sure that people have a comp within like 50 years of their like the number of people who use new builds as their comps for like a 1950s
Right.
renovation
Or 1920 even.
Yeah.
Well, it's more price point versus comp.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just establishing,
Yeah.
you know, what real value is.
Absolutely.
I believe St. Clair Place, that's exactly how St. Clair Place really got going.
Right,
Was
for sure.
because of that. And
For sure.
I was astonished that it actually worked. The program worked. And that was an excellent thing for St. Clair Place. People weren't falling out of it. I thought for sure we'd see foreclosure after foreclosure, but that didn't happen. And I'm glad that program really worked well and stuff. So created some good homeowners, and the neighborhood over there is still a decent neighborhood. You know, it hasn't deteriorated. It hasn't gone downhill. It's still very well established since 2011. So.
Right. Well, before we rotate too much further around to the west side of Indy, would love to kind of get your favorite spot if you could pick up a good deal today within the east side, and maybe the area that you're just like absolutely will not touch. I know we got one from you already, absolutely will not touch it, but are there any markets in particular there on the east side that really stand out to you?
21st in Arlington is can you swear in this show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Hell
It's a
yeah,
shit-
we can.
It's a shithole. And it's all rental. It's 80% rental. How can you ever find anybody and it's high maintenance rentals. It's you know, at one point we had 100 buys and hold. And I basically come home one night. This is a few years ago. We were self-managed. My wife was managing, sitting in a chair.
That's a really expensive manager.
Huh?
It's a really expensive manager.
Yeah. And she's crying. She says, I'm going to work for fucking McDonald's. I'm not dealing with this. So we sold our rental inventory. But it's just a situation. That's an area that you can't touch over there, at least in my mind, and try to do anything substantial.
Yeah.
But yet just west of Arlington right there is fairly clean, you know, and does fairly well as far as flips or rentals or buy and holds, that kind of stuff. So, you know, I want to be south of, I'll call it 30th Street, the further east I go, until you get into the county, and then it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, we haven't done a lot. It's not that we wouldn't. It's hitting all the peripheral areas, the Lapels, the Pendletons, the Fortvilles, the Greenfields, the Kokomo's, the Elwoods. You know, price of entries there is pretty good, and the rental market's stable, the flip market's stable. So if I was a brand new flipper, I would be looking in those kinds of neighborhoods to be safe.
How about you, Steve?
What comes to my mind is North Brookside Park, and it's north of 16th Street, and it's just not a good pocket. It hasn't been a good pocket, and I'm never.
It's never going to be a good pocket.
It's just not. And I know people are rehabbing over there. I get it, but I've seen a lot of people buy over there, and it's failed on them. And there's one person who tried to push 300,000. I think they did finally get it sold, but it was difficult. It's not like this thing just blew off market. That
Where's
pocket,
that threshold end for you? 16th to what?
it would be 16th up to about 21st Street.
Fair.
So
Fair.
that pocket right there
Very
is
fair.
just Adams and all that over there. It just is not. It's not lucrative. It really never has been.
Like
So
to Steve's point, it's like you need to be really cautious if you have ease of entry into a community, you need to be really cautious that that's a good neighborhood to be in.
That's a good point. I'd love to get your guys' perspective on one particular pocket. I have a client actually who we're working with who just purchased house and has been ripped off by a couple contractors. We're trying to help him out, but just south of 38th Street near Butler, and all of the comps that she pulled were north of 38th Street. And unfortunately, she's about 2 blocks south. I'm curious to kind of get your guys' perspective on that general.
Did you read
area.
my analysis?
What?
Did you read my analysis on that one?
I think I did read your analysis on that one.
Well, 38 over by Butler is a huge dividing line in my mind. Again, you get, where I'll pick on a wholesaler. I'll see something come south of 38th Street and it says Crown Hill. Okay, really? And, if it's Crown Hill, there may be some value, but more than likely it's not Crown Hill. But there again, it's the same issue. It's point of entry, and these houses haven't had anything done to them for 50 years. And that's a big red flag in itself. And you see something at where it's 89.9 from a wholesaler. And it's like, from my standpoint, the point of entry is probably 50 on that thing. And then 50, it's like, I'm going to go in and gut it and put it up for sale for 75. It's like, I'm not going to take
it to the end state.
I'm not going to take my cruise where my stuff might not be there the next day.
We might be missing an AC right now. So yes.
And so, unfortunately, and I've dealt with it a lot, I know Steve's dealt with it more than me, is the homeless population, they seem to gravitate towards these neighborhoods and these houses because they're not getting hounded on it. And they're pretty brazen today, so that makes it even worse.
What about from the buy and hold perspective in that area?
the buy and hold, I've never cared for that area and ever. And as a matter of fact, Randy, you had a client there a long time ago that was trying to push that area when I was never really ever doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has tried to push that area, and it has its little streets, certain streets, but nothing definitive, right? So buy and hold, you can get the rents out of there.
I think it's got to be a duplex in that area.
It would have to be. Single families are going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
And then, like Dave said, those houses over there, they are old, and a lot of them are dilapidated and falling apart. And even if you sink money into them, you got to get them at a good price to make them cash flow.
Oh, yeah.
So
We
and the 89, like Dave said, from the wholesaler is pretty common for that area. That's what they're always asking. And they're all, of course, pulling all the comps off the north side of 38th Street. You can't do that because 38th Street is really that dividing. And north and south, it
So
really is.
To be
different.
clear, for those out of state, north is the good side, south is the
Yeah.
rougher
It's
side.
Not
South
ideal side.
It is, but I mean, if you get further south, the more south
gets
you go,
better.
it gets better.
the
Right?
closer,
The closer to
the miles.
38th Street,
Yep.
2 streets down, like you said, you got to use some
Well, I
caution.
think
Yeah.
one of the things you have to do is why area is so important is and it's the economy. It's like the if the economy's real good, then people jump because they want to do business. But then the economy stabilizes or goes down. These are the first areas that people stop coming in to buy, for sure. And that's why you can't be near that south of 38th Street. In my mind, you can't be near the Justice Center. And I'm talking about from a business standpoint. You can't be in all of these areas like Windsor Park. I mean, Fountain Square, Bates Hendricks, perfect example. The only reason Fountain Square and Bates Hendricks didn't fail much quicker than it did is that we could go in. Every house I did in Fountain Square, I made horrific mistakes, but the market bailed me out. Well, you can't count on the market to bail you out today. You've got to do your due diligence and make sure you're really right. That's why I like those neighbors. They'll still bring value, but you just have to be able to control your costs. That's why I like those neighborhoods that the house is half finished, because now I can control my cost.
I think the purple line is going to make a huge difference right there. Commercial assets on that 38th line seem to be the roadblock, and having the purple line come right through there, I don't see how commercial activity is not going to pick up.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm going to be honest, I know very little about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a continuation of the bus line, and the 38th, that corridor that we're talking about, has been underserved. A lot of people have tried in that area. That's why I asked about the buy and hold. We have the record for the most expensive sold duplex right on that pocket. $365 last October. And I just feel like there has to be more of those coming that way. Location to the hospital, midterm rentals, such a clickbait topic. For cash flow, the Butler area, people are performing well in short-term rentals for cash flow, going against the risk of having 8.9% interest, trying to find cash somewhere. So I'm hopeful for that area. I'm not telling anybody to run and go get it. Just saying, pay attention to it. I think there will finally be a breakthrough.
I guess every one of the lines in Indianapolis has failed miserably from my observation.
Fair.
So why are you going to put it in the worst neighborhood and think it's going to generate activity?
Yeah.
I mean, they built Crew Car Wash over there. That's new, right? I know a lot of the people around there want grocery stores because there are none. It's a food desert over there, and that's another big problem. And I know that
It's missing.
I know that community is suffering for that. So could the purple line bring things in? You know what? Let's hope it does. Let's hope that 38th Street kind of flips it around over there because of it, and starts bringing some businesses in there, and stuff like that. I think that community deserves it. I honestly do.
Now, before Nick steals and goes to the west side, Devington.
And give or take it. I think it's a good solid little area that you can do a couple little flips in, you can do holds in, you can do whatever, really anything you, for the most part. I seen that area grow throughout the years. I held some properties in there, and yeah, definitely. I like it.
What's your coordinates? What you're considering Devington?
Yeah, just on the other side of the kind of Brookside area that you were talking about, just on the other side of that, and not getting quite into the north side.
Okay.
A couple duplexes there this year that saw a good opportunity.
But don't you think on buy and holds, duplexes, if it's a quality product, you can attract a quality tenant? Are you finding that out?
Absolutely. In fact, I hate the word rental grade. I try to go above rental grade. Every rental that I have is retail grade, if you would, or low retail grade.
Mid-range.
Yeah.
That's what we used to do.
Some
Mid-range,
butcher block
right.
counter, some granite counter, some hardwood floors, some LVP, tile in every shower. I just have a belief that I don't want to hold anything that I wouldn't live in. That's the way that I buy and holds. If I could not say for certainty that I would, sleep there and feel comfortable and also enjoy living there with the amenities, but I wouldn't buy it. So that's the way that I've structured my own
How
portfolio.
important for your buy and holds is walkability?
Not something that I factor too much. I have the tenants that become attracted are paying the 1,700 plus range. And that doesn't seem to be a limiting factor for any of them.
Because it would seem to me that if I ever would want to have rentals, I would want walkability, and it becomes a safe issue more as much as anything.
Yeah, I think that's why like South Broad Ripple is super attractive right now. Walkability, nightlife, and pretty much anything. Even Fountain Square, that's
Right.
huge for Fountain Square. It's fair. Going to not walkable at all, the west side.
Well, that's one hell of a segue.
That's
So
perfect.
we'll take that, man. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the west side of Indy then. I know we kind of covered the east side pretty extensively. What's your guys' take? I know when I started doing this back in 2017, like nobody was really talking about the west side from an investment perspective, at least from the out-of-state investor community. So let's
Crispus Attucks.
What?
Crispus Attucks, is that how you say it? Or am I saying like,
That's how I say it.
Lost me
Chris-
on that one. What is
Christmas Attucks is North Meridian Street, isn't it?
yeah, I guess Riverside's kind of near there, but anyways.
Yeah. So what's your
Ignore me.
guys' take on the west side?
Well, let's
Riverside?
swoop down. We'll start so I like to hear kind of Steve and Dave's perspective on like the southwest kind of
Okay.
corridor there.
Down
There's
by,
a
like,
lot
the
of
airport.
there's a lot of industrial there,
Oh.
and there's little
Mhm.
pockets that I've seen people have success in. Some people haven't, but let's talk about like stay in that southwest, below 16th Street, down to the end of the loop, maybe a little bit outside even. But kind of what's your guys' thoughts there?
You got heavily industrial all over. That's the industrial complex for Indianapolis, as far as I care, going all the way out to the airport. And you have the west side is pretty much what it is over there. Going from Meridian, there's a lot of activity. The old south side. So the old people get confused. The old south side old south side's here, and Bates Hendricks is here, and Madison kind of is the cutoff. So old south side and then the west side, and all that is growing, and there's a lot of activity. There are new apartment complexes that are going up over there, new gas stations. It's walkable to the stadium where the Colts play, and the convention center and downtown. I mean, literally it's walkable, without question. There's Elanco's going in, and by the old GM stamping plant, that portion of neighborhoods over there is still rough. But it's definitely something you'd want to buy and hold. And I know a lot of people that are doing it, and properties are difficult to come by over there because of that reason.
There's not a lot.
No, there isn't, particularly by McCarty Park, which McCarty Triangle, kind of what I like to call it.
Yeah.
Biltmore, is that Biltmore? Or built some convention or small
There's a
banquet
small event center.
center over there.
Oh yeah, the wedding.
Right. So you got that over there. That's been there for a long time. As you move west down there, those neighborhoods have been kind of stagnant. We thought at one time it would take off and it would do something, but it never really did. It just kind of
There's a lot of chatter behind it for sure.
right. There's just there's no movement yet. Will there be? I don't know. It's going to be difficult to see. But west side is primarily very heavily industrial. And I always thought that area would make a good solid rental area. And parts of it do, because you have so much industrial. So you figure a lot of workers want to be near their place of business, so they don't have to travel too far, and that kind of stuff. But
The Indy 11 rumors.
the Indy 11
They-
rumors, which got kind of quashed so far right now, but I think that would bring in a lot of activity into that area too.
But I wonder, is that completely snuffed because they want housing in that area?
as of right now,
No,
it's a political game.
Yeah,
Right.
It's political. Our mayor don't want housing. He wants
So
industry.
yeah, he wants the MLS, and that's what he
Yeah.
wants. But that's a whole nother.
And kind of the areas that Randy's asking about, my general consensus is I consider those pioneer area, and I don't want to be a pioneer. And so I'm, these are areas that it's like, if I go in and try to buy something in a neighborhood, I probably can't compete against that. And I probably can't get the house rehabbed to my standards, and it still has a margin on it. And, it's hard to rehab today and get margin I would call the house a build after, on the bottom end of it, of a 1950. Then construct, kind of starting in that area, the construction standards were so much better in Indianapolis. They were building square house, what I call square houses. They were well built. They use the term good bones. But prior to that, there's no, I'm trying to decide if I've been into a Fountain Square house that had good. You could make it, but it's just too damn much work.
I would be shocked if you had been.
Huh?
I'd be shocked if you had.
Yeah,
I hear all the good bone houses are down in Bates Hendricks area.
Yep.
I would echo what Steve said as well, like in that McCarty area with all the kind of more blue collar workers. I would say, I know kind of the burr is super hard to find, if not dead, for just your traditional rental stuff. But my best burrs came around that Rhodius Park area, that little McCarty Square area. And still, a couple of them down there that I bought when I first started investing here in 2019, 18, when I moved here. I saw the original tenants in there, and they're just blue collar workers in that industrial area, and they just want to be close by.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who stay. They stay. They stay very. I've noticed that about the West Side. When people move in around the West Side, they stay. They don't seem. There's not a big turnover of people that I have noticed with all the houses I've run and all the little pockets I've been into. It's always the same people for the most part, and even tenants. They don't. Not a large turnover for the most part. So that's why I think those areas are better rentals than flips as of right now. And it may change, but I don't think so. I think it's just a solid rental.
Yeah, I think that's been the whole theme of the West Side for a long time, is just that that's like the most steady area of Indianapolis, where you buy a rental there, and like Brooks said, you're gonna have renters there for a while, and that's really all it's gonna be. Property values haven't really shot up overall.
And that's another, let's take Mars Hill, right? Mars Hill, through all this time, the prices are pretty much the same. Haven't changed a whole lot, where everything else is dramatically increased in price. Fountain Square jumped, Bates Hendricks jumped, Brookside jumped, everything jumped except Mars Hill. Mars Hill's always kind of remained the same, but everybody tries to play it off as it's this hot upcoming area. Now it's
well, you can get cheap homes there.
You can get cheap homes there, but
you can get a deal.
As Dave says, you got to be a pioneer, and if that's what you want to be, go. But it does get a little sketchy in certain areas and pockets of that 241 area. So
Riverside. That's what everybody from out of state, it's the first thing they call about. I don't know where they're reading about it, but it's Riverside. I want to deal in Riverside. What's your guys' take on Riverside?
I can put Sterling Davis in for that one.
Yeah, again, that's a pioneer. It's a rental. It's probably going to be a rental community for a long time. Quite honestly, the construction appears to be better in Riverside on some of the houses than they do in this, the southwest part of, the Mars Hill. Mars Hill, for instance, is my opinion is like Steve. Well, the reason Mars Hill stays the same, in my opinion, it's one of the few entry level rental areas that is Wayne Township School. And Wayne Township really doesn't have, like Lawrence, for instance, it has a gradual, it has this area here that has $100,000 houses, and the person can make a move to 150,000. They can make a move to a 200,000, then they can jump to a 400 and stay in the same community. Wayne Township, you have to jump 100 plus to get out of Wayne and still be in the same school system. So that area tends to stay because people can't make that jump. And statistically in Indianapolis in general, if you start kindergarten in Pike Township, you will probably graduate from Pike Township. If you start kindergarten in Wayne Township, you will probably graduate from Ben Davis High School.
I didn't realize how far Wayne until just last week, how much area that township covers for that
Yes.
school system. My brother just started working at the high school at Ben Davis, and they took him on a tour around, and he was telling me the boundaries. I'm like, really?
Yep.
It's huge.
It's huge.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
I didn't even know that until I learned that too a long time ago. I'm like, man, I did no idea how much coverage they have. So,
It makes sense why they stay.
Riverside, I mean, it's like I coach a lot of students in flipping. And part of my, if you're being coached by me, you're not allowed to buy a house unless I pass it and say, okay, we can get you through this. But the rule is I'll either buy it, that I wouldn't buy it, but you probably can do okay on it, or I'll buy it. I would buy it. And if you're my student, you only buy number 3. There's got to be a reason after 450 houses, I tell you, I'm not going there. Don't go. So, that's the rule.
Noted.
But, on the same token, we put our money where our mouth is. It said, if you get control of this and I say I'll buy it, I'll give you a profit on it and I'll take the house. But, there's too many unknowns that it's not that it's not going to be a good neighborhood, but I don't know the unknowns on Riverside, and I'll wholeheartedly admit it. I don't know the unknowns south of 38th Street. And I can see that you can get the house done. Can you sell it for the profit that you want to make on it? So it's not that it's a bad neighborhood. It's that I don't know the unknowns in a neighborhood for a good flipper will probably equate to 20 or 25% profit going in.
That's fair.
So
Yeah, I can tell you the unknowns in Riverside are you're not going to appraise, and it's going to be an FHA appraisal, and it's going to be 4 banks, and you're going to have some fun getting that thing sold. You'll get it under contract, and they'll stay in.
well, and having done that, because we work with a lot of different mortgage guys, if you control where you're taking your mortgages, I can get appraised.
Yeah, I'm meaning the end buyer.
No, I'm talking about the end buyer.
Right. Yeah, that's ultimately what I had to do. I had a client that bought 2 with a different agent, and then I listed them for him. They already had a buyer that was under contract, and I called them up and paired them up, and that's how we got it done. But they were under contract for 120 days. They've been through 3 banks. And
but
that's the
like
struggle.
You just go to one.
Yeah, just
And-
hitting the ARV in that
Right.
area.
And it's a situation where, the right banks, they say appraisals are random selection of the appraiser. Well, if you believe that,
Yeah.
so
Then
you
Dave's
take
got a
it-
house to sell you.
in Marcel.
And, well, I mean, we got one done last week, and I wouldn't even do the inspection repairs on this because I knew it couldn't appraise, even by my standards. And it appraised. But we had the right, the lender that we had done a lot of business with. And just kind of told him, I said, hey, your reputation's on this house. You need to get it down. So, but that's connections and networking that all flippers should have.
And I think that's why it's hard to flip from distance. That exactly right there.
Right.
It is extremely hard to flip from distance because you don't have control. You lose a lot of your control. That 25% of unknown becomes 50%. being from
And,
distance and
you know,
not having
somebody
relationships.
comes and you got a pre-approval letter and it's with ABC Mortgage. And you look at it as a flipper coming in on your house. And, you know, I just say, well, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this with this lender, you know, because if I call a lender that we're trying to get a deal there and it's the next day when they call me back, well, how in the hell is your processing going to be on that house if they can't call you back trying to get the deal?
If they don't call you first.
Huh?
They should call you first.
Yeah, they should call you first. And then you can ask them all the questions. Who normally does your appraisals? How many, you know, of your last 10 deals, how many didn't appraise? You know, what was the appraiser's name that, you know, we had that, you know, had a debt?
Yeah.
You know, these are questions that make your value. You know, you can't let an appraiser take 20% of your profit.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And your fear that nobody else will come along to buy this, you know, buy this house.
Yeah.
There's always a buyer if you've done it all.
very true. Yeah. And having, I won't plug myself. I'll reserve. I do enough of that on here. This is awesome.
So, kind of sticking to the neighborhoods there, kind of moving up. So a big one that I always see a lot of people kind of looking at deals in is Haughville. What's your guys' take on that area?
Long's Donuts would be the only value of Haughville.
You just got to be close to Long's.
Close enough to go buy a donut and get out.
Yeah.
Can we all agree it's just a buy and hold long term?
I will say this, what I've been saying for the past 10 years. Haughville is going to be Haughville, and it's going to remain Haughville, and it's going to be nothing other than Haughville. And nothing against the people that live there. They're great people. I've met a lot of them. But when they started redoing Central States and coming up from the south with the anticipation to change that area over, and that was what their intent was, they did it wrong. And they should have came in from the hospital and came in from IU and IUPUI and came in that direction. But they chose not to do it. They came in from the south, did all this new development, and it's stagnated right around Michigan. And that's where it's sitting right now, and it's not doing anything. The property values in Haughville, I think, are too high. I think, and it's fine. It's what the market calls for, but I still think they're too high. There's certain streets that are okay. There's other streets that I wouldn't touch. King Street, I'll say that. 700 block, forget it. All right, just not a fan of that street. Long Donuts, it's great. But you got to really kind of know what you're doing and don't get caught up in the hype of what somebody's trying to pitch at you, because they're just trying to pitch a house to you.
Well, Haughville is kind of one of them neighborhoods. It has too many big houses. And anytime big houses are a problem for an investor, flip it. They're just too much of a problem. And, it costs me as much to wire a 2,500 square foot house in Haughville as it does for me to do Broad Ripple. So why in the hell would I want to be in Haughville when I can be in Broad Ripple doing the same amount of
And not
work?
have to wire it twice because all your copper got stolen.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's been a big problem of Haughville, is that the houses are just too big, for investors to come in and have control, and that's why these Pioneer.
Do you think that IUPUI split and donor money in that area I think there's
No.
you and Purdue battle going
No,
on right now.
I don't think that's going to have any effect on Haughville whatsoever. I do agree with Dave on the houses being too big. I don't think they were really designed right when they were built originally. I just don't. I think that every time I walk into a house in Haughville, it's always like, well, there's a room there, and then the kitchen's there, and then the stairs going right up this way. And I'm like,
Well, they have a living room that's 20 by 20, a dining room is 15 by 18, and a kitchen that's 8 by 10. So
if you even
where do you
even
start?
get the dining room? It's just been some houses I walk into. I'm going, really?
I've went in to take videos of houses and I'm like, didn't I already walk that?
Yeah.
I'm like, breaking a sweat walking up the stairs because I feel they're huge.
Yeah.
When they go vertical in a lot of cases.
Oh, and then I'm climbing into presumably the attic, but it's not.
It's not the attic, right?
It
Yes.
feels like it should
It
be.
should be.
Yeah.
And we took bad jumps on you after you're halfway up the damn attic.
But yeah, I think Haughville and I can't remember the neighborhood that's next to
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. You know, everybody talked about that taking. It's like, oh, it just never really has. It's not a horrible area, but it just never really.
Well, the economy,
Yeah.
anytime the economy drops, then these areas drop, and it's much tougher for them to come back because people got stung in the neighborhood.
I could see this area being a lot of seller financing. That's what I could see. A lot of seller financing, maybe rent-to-owns, that type of thing in this location. I do see a lot of Latino restaurants and grocery stores popping up over there. That has, but particularly around Tibbs in Michigan, has been kind of an area that's starting to pop up. So some places on 16th Street have also started popping up over there too. So, I think seller financing would work over there.
Well, are there areas up in the northwest side of Indy that you do like?
Northwest side, I don't really. Honestly, I've never done a whole lot up there in that location. A lot of it's good, solid area, Georgetown Road up there and everything like that. And when you get up to around 71st Street and stuff like that, those are all solid neighborhoods. Those are good.
Well,
B
the
class.
beauty with Pike is, relatively speaking, it's landlocked.
Mm.
There's no room to put new subdivision there, so consequently, you tend to always have a reasonable escalation of growth in these neighborhoods, based on the premises that, if they start there in kindergarten, they'll graduate there. So they're looking at, just nicer areas in it, because Pike, like Lawrence, has a progression. Has some entry-level houses, and it can go up to where you can have as big a house as you want.
You get a lot of car dealerships up that way, a lot of stuff like that too. So I just down over on 60th Street. And really, I like the area. They're very nice, quiet.
Yeah.
You don't drive down there going, oh, who am I going to run into? What person's going to come knock on my window looking for money? It's really not that bad over there, in that extent of things.
Well, I mean, Eagledale has just fascinated me that it's stayed so solid and such growth.
Yeah, I
And
didn't
such
think that. I
escalation
actually
in
didn't think that
price.
would. I thought I would
I
collapse
thought
on
it would
itself.
fizzle.
But
I thought it would fizzle out, but it's continued to still do really, really well. I'm shocked they haven't got, there's so many rooftops up there. I'm just shocked that, they haven't been able to pull Lafayette Square off. I mean, I'm not sure the design is quite right there yet on what they're trying to do.
that's the same owner as the Indy 11, I believe.
Yeah, I know one of the principals there, but I don't know if it's the
No,
same.
I thought it might.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. I'm not sure.
Why don't they make that like housing? To
Hmm?
use the land, why don't they try to convert it into housing?
Any time that it's hard to demo stuff that potentially can rent at 20 or 25 without giving it every shot to make it. I could see decent perimeter housing around Lafayette Square doing it. And it wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it could be certainly a mixed use.
Yeah, I just think that everywhere that there's a decent shopping in our state, there's apartments all around it, and
Right.
walkability.
Well,
and
and people are they drive to these communities.
Yeah.
People leave Eagledale and go shop somewhere.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't an obstacle of some reason for Lafayette Square, then I can't believe that they wouldn't do that. So, I mean, I could see stuff with walkability to that center being very popular.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, unless you
Yeah.
want to get up in the north central
Well,
over there.
I think what we'll need to do, we're going to need to have another episode here where we talk about outside the loop, because I think we've generally covered inside the loop pretty darn effectively. Is there anything else?
It's general
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than just what we discussed here. A lot more, but yeah.
Well, out of curiosity, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you? What do you guys offer here to people here in the Indianapolis market? I know both of you guys are super generous with your time. Dave, why don't you go first? What offerings do you have? How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way of doing that?
Best way is probably my cell, 317-590-4499. My email is dshort@c21sheets, SCHEETZ.com. I'm around, I have a couple unique offerings. People who want to be a part of the real estate community in Indianapolis. I own an event center and a co-working space in Irvington on the east side of Indianapolis. And if you're a member, I used to do some coaching more than I do now. I just don't have time. I'm not wild about it. Because if you coach somebody 3 hours, you got to prepare 8 hours to coach.
Mhm.
And that's not it's not a good trade of time. But what we do, if you're a member of our co-working space, a membership use of our space, it's $129 a month. Every other Monday, we have a mastermind that I lead, and it's probably 10 to 11, 12 of the top flippers and people in the real estate business in Indianapolis. And you're allowed, you can bring all your problems, and you bring the deals that you don't want. I probably passed out 2 or 3 deals to other investors in the group that I'm not going to do, and let it go. And then obviously, if you want a real estate incubator for offices, we have private offices that can go there. Twice a year, I do a 3-day boot camp. It's A to Z in flipping, and that comes with extended coaching beyond the 3 days
Wow.
of the boot camp. So we'll do that, and it's a modest cost. It's $1,500.
Sounds like the best deal in real estate right now.
It's a when you go with the big companies, and I'll say Fortune Builders, because Fortune Builders are a really good outfit and they give you a lot of knowledge. They're $50,000, and
Definitely get more than 3% of the value
You get
of
more
Fortune
than-
Builders when dealing with Dave.
Fortune Builders, I think statistically is 5 to 7% of their attendees do a real estate deal. The people who are in our class, we run about 60% do a real estate.
Wow.
So it good results and good bonds among the other people in the class. So it's a really good opportunity.
That's awesome. How about you, Steve? What are you offering? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I have a consulting business, and I'm a third-party consultant where I will look at anybody's property and kind of underwrite it for them. I'll go to the property. I will do a property report. Anything from videos of the inside, video of the outside, pictures. I'll literally walk the street, show you what the street is like. Is it sidewalks busted up, lamps missing, that kind of stuff. So you know where the house is located at and what you're buying and what the neighborhood you're buying in. I also do things as far as give you rent evaluations, and I'll give you a rehab evaluation. Not a budget or anything, but I'll give you an estimated, $30,000-$40,000 rehab, something like that, based on what you want to do, rental grade, and like we were saying, kind of a in between rental and MLS grade type of stuff for that. I do rekeys. I also kick out squatters. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed talking about real estate, and give me a call, 317-273-3552. Best way would probably text me first. Let me know where you got the number from and everything like that, and we can sit down or get on the phone and chat and figure out what your goals are and how I can help you out. And I've been through thousands and thousands of houses and all over the neighborhoods on a daily basis, and still am. And don't really think I'm going to stop anytime soon.
I'm consistently
And-
telling
and
Steve.
Steve's part of our mastermind.
Oh,
Yep.
fantastic. Yeah, I'm consistently telling Steve that he needs to raise the prices because that might be the, if not the best, the second best value in real estate here in
leave
Indy.
him alone.
All right.
He is.
It's enjoyable to see people succeed is really the goal, and to get them to where they need to be. I've seen all the people here in Indiana, not all, but most, like Dave, seen the people come and build their businesses to such a success that it's going, well, you know what, I helped them out somehow, some way, and that I like.
Well, Randy, are you willing to plug BR Buys Indy and where people can reach out to you?
Yeah. So anyone looking for any off-market deals, it's kind of what Brooks and I do. So you can reach out at randy@brbuysindy.com or brooks@brbuysindy.com. Also, testimonial for Steve. He walks a lot of our properties that we get under contract and purchase. Couldn't be happier with the service. So I'll put a plug in there for him.
Yeah.
Thanks, Randy.
Max, get that swallow in there and then we'll gonna let you get your plug in too.
Drinking my fruit juice over here. Yeah, rootsrealty.co. You'll find me.
Fantastic. And if anybody wants to chat with me about an investment property or rehab costs, they can find me at meetwithoffleash.com. Took me a second to remember that one. And anybody local who wants to come and enjoy the water bowl here, we actually have an online booking at drinkswithoffleash.com. If somebody wants to come in and just hang out and
I didn't know
drink
that.
far too good bourbon. So feel free to reach out. But this has been another episode of the Indy Investor Speakeasy, guys. Thank you for coming on. I'm sure we're going to have you guys
Enjoyed it.
back here.
Appreciate it.